Do you struggle with stylized painting? Maybe you're already used to painting in a realistic way, or just want to try it? There are a lot of good tutorials out there. What I want to share today are the things that really improve my understanding. Hopefully they'll help you too. Welcome back to the channel where we grow our drawing skills together and sometimes rant about pop culture. Today I'm going to share my approach to stylized painting. If you're new to it or if you're used to realism, this might help you to get more comfortable with the style. Stylized painting has gone way more popular over the last 10 years, I think. I think games from Blizzard helped to popularize it. And then other IPs pushed it further. Now Riot Games and even mobile titles like Clash of Clans are using it too. It's grown into its own genre, and it will probably only keep growing. So what makes this style unique? It's all about emphasizing volumes and simplifying details, turning complexity into blocky, readable shapes and sometimes cartoony, with visual clarity prioritized over impressions. A lot of it comes down to using simple 3D shapes and making sure surface planes clearly show volume. That makes lighting and coloring much easier, especially if it's going to be translated into 3D assets down the line. So let's warm up. I usually doodle some basic shapes from different angles, twisting them around to loosen up my hand and brain. Don't forget to add grit across the surfaces to really show the planes. Some of this might resemble human limbs, and that's intentional. In this part 1, we'll be focusing on heads, because it's complex enough. I won't go too deep into the shape design. Focus more on the painting aspect for now. Hands are warmed up, let's dive in. Let's get back to fundamental first. It starts with basic tube, cylinder, and sphere, with simple lighting on them. You probably know this already, but stick with me. We'll need a common understanding moving forward. With these basics, we can see not only major light and shadow, but also more subtle things like bounce light, ambient occlusion, and subsurface scattering. Let's break those down real quick. Bounce light happens when light reflects off nearby surfaces and softly lights the shadow areas. Ambient occlusion is where light is hardest to reach, so you get the darkest shadows. Think of it as where the black lines appear. Subsurface scattering is when light passes through non-solid materials like skin or fabric, creating reddish or saturated glow. But here's the tricky part. In illustrations, sometimes it also refers to reddish color appearing on a strong cast shadow and a certain bounce light. Let me know if I'm wrong, and please enlighten me if you know more about it. Anyway, for now, I'll refer to all of them as subsurface scattering. Keep this in mind, we'll reference them often. Now let's take it a step further. We can emphasize those planes into flatter surfaces, making shapes look blockier. This helps simplify complex forms and makes it easier to assign values depending on the light direction. It also affects how shadows, bounce light, and occlusion appear. Next, think about edges. Not every edge is sharp, some are softer. Let's try to soften the edges and notice how it changes the shadows and bounce light. So those are the basics. Use surfaces to define volumes and really think about where light and shadow form. Understanding things like ambient occlusion, bounce light, and subsurface scattering will make your work feel more three-dimensional. With that foundation, let's move ahead with Stylized proportion. I'm sketching ahead with Stylized proportion. I'm not focusing on the head design here, but let me know if you want me to cover that in other videos. Then Eblen has a great demo on Proko channel about drawing stylized heads. I link it in the description along with their channels. Definitely worth checking out. In this sketch, I exaggerate the eyes and shrink the nose, kind of anime-ish. Next, I map out the planes to make shading easier. I'm using the Lumis head method, which I'm sure you are familiar with. I also treat the hair as a solid shape, not strands. Again, simplification helps. Once the planes are in place, I choose a light source and roughly block the light and shadow. But just roughly, enough to guide me before moving on to the final version. Now for the real head, I start with flat colors and add shading on a multiply layer. From there, I add details like bounce light, ambient occlusion, and so on. For the hair, I add just enough texture to suggest strands, but the main focus is volume. For highlights, I use screen layer and paint along the form, not individual hairs. A bit of smudge tool or blend tool in CSP makes it shiny. Then I add finishing touches, color variation, blush, and there it is. By applying those principles, as with simple shapes, we can make a head feel 3D. The key is understanding forms, and placing the bounce light, occlusion, and subsurface scattering correctly. Now, what if you change the light source? Here's the same head, same principle, just different light. What do you think? Let me know if you have any questions. Once you understand this, you can apply it to any kind of head. Trolls, goblins, ogres, anything. You can impose volume at the sketching stage by adding a bit of ambient occlusion. Just thicken the areas where there are folds or where the light struggles to reach, like the corners of the mouth, the eyelids, and the neck, as well as in holes like ears and nose. It will instantly give more depth. Personally, I like shading directly on colors. For me, painting in grayscale first takes more correcting and headaches. Do you prefer to paint in grayscale first? Remember, always think about bounce light, occlusion, and subsurface scattering. That's what sells the form. Another great resource is TOART-STUDIO on Artstation. They're a fantastic reference for stylization, and there's so much we can study from their work. I'll drop the link in the description. Let me know if you'd like me to make a video where I break down their work in detail. By the way, I also made a video on drawing heads from different angles. You can check that out if you want to practice. See? Once you understand the fundamentals, you can make anything look 3D. This is super useful for 3D artists to make assets. Of course, you can also apply this with different light sources. What if you want to stylize a real person? There are many ways to exaggerate or emphasize features. If you want me to cover that, let me know. I think it deserves its own video. In part 2, we'll focus on muscles, how to stylize them, how to break them down into basic forms, and maybe put everything together in a full illustration. So, those are the main things that improved my understanding of stylized painting. Overall, the stylized approach is simpler, but if you're used to realism, it can be a bit tricky. Aside from exaggeration and simplification, a big part of it is paying attention to edges, deciding which one should be sharp and which one should be softened. What do you think? Let me know if you have anything to ask. I hope you enjoyed the process and got something useful out of this. What do you want me to cover next? Thanks for watching, making progress with me today. See you next time, don't forget to drink water, and cheers!